Welcome, curious mind, to The Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging into Brazil. It's a nation that's always dynamic, often, well, surprising, and it's constantly making headlines.
Absolutely. And this past week, the first week of August 2025, has been particularly packed. We've got a stack of sources, news reports, economic analyses, cultural insights.
It's quite a collection, yeah, covering August 1st to the 8th.
A really rich snapshot of the country right now.
And our mission, as always, is to sift through all this, pull out the key insights, and help you understand the forces shaping Brazil. Politics, economics, culture, the whole picture. So where do we even start with a week like this one? I guess the political scene feels like the epicenter.
I think you're right. And the top story really has to be about former President Jair Bolsonaro. He's been placed under house arrest.
Wow, okay, that's huge. Who ordered this?
Yeah.
And what's the official reason?
It came directly from Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes. And the reason given was a violation of a social media ban.
Or the one imposed ahead of his coup plot trial.
Exactly. The court found that his allies were using their accounts, basically posting messages that incited attacks on institutions. And that was seen as a direct breach of those court orders.
And the international reaction. That was pretty striking, wasn't it? The U.S. State Department condemning it.
It really was. Calling it an attempt to silence opposition, that kind of statement from the U.S. is, well, unusual in this context.
How's that landing in Brazil, given their, emphasis on sovereignty?
Well, Brazilian officials definitely bristled at that. They pushed back pretty quickly.
What's their narrative?
Their counter-narrative is very clear. This is about upholding the rule of law. It's about national sovereignty against what they see as, alleged subversion of democracy by Bolsonaro.
And they're linking it back to the January 2023 events.
Directly. Accountability for that uprising. They're essentially saying, this is our legal process, stay out of it.
And what about public? Any reaction on the ground?
Yeah, we've seen protests starting up, Bolsonaro supporters gathering in several cities.
So for you, our listener, this isn't just a simple legal case. It's really a clash, isn't it? Sovereignty, judicial power, political opposition, and it's got these international ripples, too. A real test for Brazil's institutions.
Definitely.
Okay, so while that's unfolding, President Lula made another really significant move this week. Also quite divisive, especially concerning the Amazon. He partially vetoed that controversial environmental bill.
He did, yeah. The one often called the Devastation bill.
Right. Remind us what that bill aimed to do originally.
It was heavily backed by the agribusiness lobby, basically powerful agricultural interests. And the idea was to really loosen environmental licensing rules, make it much easier to get big projects approved, which raised huge fears about Amazon deforestation.
But Lula stepped in on August 8th. He signed it into law, but he made changes.
Significant changes. He vetoed or revised 63 out of nearly 400 provisions.
63. What were the key things he changed?
Well, crucially, he put strict oversight back in for strategic projects. And he introduced something new, a special environmental license, which is supposed to balance faster development with, essential safeguards, trying to thread that needle.
A balancing act. How did that go down? The reactions?
Oh, sharply divided. As you'd expect.
Yeah.
Environmental groups, they hailed it, called it a victory for the Amazon for indigenous rights.
Okay. And the other side?
Conservative lawmakers, many aligned with Bolsonaro and that agrarian bloc, they were furious. They blasted the changes.
And they're pushing back.
Yes, they've even stalled other legislative business in protest. And interestingly, they're explicitly demanding leniency for Bolsonaro in his legal case. It just shows how tangled these issues get.
It really highlights that fundamental tension, doesn't it? Economic development versus environmental protection.
Absolutely. It's maybe the defining tension for Brazil right now.
Lula's team argues you can have both economy and ecology moving together. But opponents are warning about, overregulation scaring off investment.
Exactly. It's a debate playing out globally, but it feels particularly intense in Brazil.
Okay, let's switch gears then to the economy. The central bank holding interest rates steady. That was big news, too.
Yes, they kept the benchmark Selic rate at 15%. Unanimously.
15%, that's incredibly high, right?
It's the highest level in almost 2 decades. It really shows their commitment, maybe obsession, with crushing inflation. It's currently running about 5.5%, still well above their 3% target.
Even if it slows down the economy.
That seems to be the calculation. They're willing to accept slower activity to get inflation under control.
Are there any signs it's working? or any positive economic signs despite that rate?
There are some glimmers. The Economic Policy Secretary, Guilherme Mello, actually noted that demand seems to be cooling, maybe even sooner than expected, and the government's still projecting GDP growth around 2.5% this year.
So how does that work? High rates but decent growth forecasts.
Well, it's that trade-off again. The high rates have helped stabilize the currency, partly through what's called the carry trade investors bringing money in to earn that high interest.
Right.
But it definitely puts a strain on sectors like retail and construction, anything sensitive to borrowing costs. And policymakers are hinting, more hikes could come if needed. It's about balancing that investor confidence against potentially choking off the recovery.
Okay, and speaking of external factors, there was that U.S. tariff situation this week.
Yeah.
A 50% tariff on many Brazilian goods.
Yes, that took effect. And it came amid that diplomatic tension we talked about earlier.
How did Lula react to the tariff itself?
He called it unacceptable blackmail, but crucially, he refused to link it to Bolsonaro's trial or intervene there. He framed any connection as an attack on Brazil's sovereignty, keeping the issues separate.
So a 50% tariff sounds pretty bad. What's the actual impact likely to be?
It's actually less severe than the headline number suggests. There were a lot of exemptions, 694 product categories, in fact.
Oh, really? Like what?
Things like aircraft, petroleum, iron, orange juice. Some major exports are exempt, so only about 36% of Brazil's exports to the U.S. by value are actually hit by the tariff.
Okay, that definitely softens the blow. Any other reasons the impact might be limited?
Yeah, two main things. First, the U.S. is a significant market, but it only takes about 12% of Brazil's total exports. China takes way more, about 28%.
Right, diversification helps.
Exactly. And second, for the goods that are affected, like beef and coffee, economists think Brazil can divert a lot of that to other markets, maybe with small discounts. So the estimated drag on GDP growth is now pretty small. One analysis put it at just 0.15 percentage points.
Wow, just 0.15. So forecasters are still expecting decent growth overall.
Yeah, most major forecasts are still around 2.3% growth for 2025. It shows Brazil's export mix and ability to pivot provides some resilience against these kinds of shocks.
Okay, now for some unambiguously good news from the economy this week. Unemployment hit a record low.
That's right. The rate dropped to 5.8% in the April to June quarter. That's the lowest since they started tracking this specific data series back in 2012.
5.8%. That's fantastic news. Over 1 million jobs created.
Yep, over 1 million jobs, and a record number of those were formal private sector positions.
That must be providing a real boost to people, incomes, confidence.
Absolutely, it's a huge social positive. The flip side, though, for the central bank.
Potential wage pressure, complicating the inflation fight.
Exactly, that classic tension. A tight job market is great for workers, but it can fuel inflation if wages rise too quickly.
So the Lula administration is probably pointing to this as success.
Oh, definitely. They're touting it as proof that their social programs and growth initiatives can work alongside that tighter monetary policy. But yeah, it adds another layer of complexity to that inflation battle.
Okay, let's shift focus now beyond the politics and economics. Brazil's culture is always so vibrant, and it seems like it's getting more international recognition.
It really is. A nice moment this week was President Lula hosting a special screening for the film O Agente Secreto.
Oh, yeah. What's special about that film?
It won an award at this year's Cannes Film Festival, so Lula held this screening at the presidential palace, celebrating it as a proud moment for Brazilian cinema. Had the director Kleber Mendonça Filho and actor Wagner Moura there, too.
That's great.
Yeah.
It does feel like Brazilian film, those gritty dramas, the indie stuff, is getting more attention globally.
It is, and moments like the Cannes win help. Observers say it brings attention, maybe investment, which is needed because they still face challenges, competition from streaming, funding limits. But yeah, the creative sector is making its mark.
And culturally, August is a special month in Brazil, isn't it?
It is. It's Folklore Month, a time to really celebrate the country's incredibly rich folk traditions.
What kinds of things are highlighted?
All sorts. Legends, dances, crafts. You see exhibitions like one in Minas Gerais called Folklore, Cultural Diversity. They showcase things like Bumba Meu Boi performances from the North Youth, that complex folk play about a bull.
Right.
And crafts like the wood-carved carancas from the São Francisco River, those sort of protective figureheads for boats. It's really diverse.
It really emphasizes that blend of influences in Brazil, indigenous, African, European.
Exactly. All preserved through stories, music, art, passed down through generations. It's a very active celebration of that heritage.
Okay, let's touch on a more serious social topic.
Yeah.
public safety. There was some positive data released, right? Homicides down.
Yes, official data confirmed the homicide rate in 2024 dropped to its lowest point in over a decade.
That's significant. What are the numbers?
Overall, murders fell by about 6% year on year. The rate is now around 17.9 per 100,000 people. It suggests some of the anti-violence efforts, policing, and community programs might be having an effect.
That's definitely hopeful, but there's a darker side to the crime stats, unfortunately. Violence against women.
That remains a huge concern. Femicides, the killing of women specifically because of their gender, only dipped by about 5% last year. Over 1,450 recorded cases.
Over 1,400.
Yeah.
And mostly domestic.
The vast majority, yes. And activists always stress that many cases likely still go unreported. It's a deep-seated problem.
And are these trends even across the country?
No, there are big regional differences. Bahia State, for example, sadly had the highest absolute number of homicides, even while other areas improved.
So what's the takeaway? It's not just about policing.
Right. The consensus seems to be that tackling these really entrenched issues, domestic violence, gang activity needs more than just law enforcement. It requires social investment, addressing the root causes. It needs a much more holistic approach.
Okay, let's try and bring some of these threads together by looking at a specific region. The Amazon, maybe the state of Pará. Lula's environmental vetoes must have resonated strongly there.
Oh, absolutely. Pará is home to huge parts of the Amazon rainforest. And indigenous leaders, environmental activists there, they praised Lula's move, saw it as vital for protecting the forests in their communities.
And Pará is really in the spotlight now, especially with the big UN climate summit.
Yeah.
Cambor 30 scheduled for Belém next year, right?
Exactly. Belém's an Amazonian city, right there in Pará. So what happens in the Amazon is central, not just ecologically, but for Brazil's international climate commitments.
So the local debate there must be intense between development and conservation.
Very much so. You hear many people in Pará pushing for sustainable jobs, ecotourism, managing the forest responsibly rather than just short-term gains from agribusiness that often drives deforestation. That local tension really shapes the whole national debate.
It feels like the choices made there in the Amazon really have global consequences. How Brazil balances growth and green stewardship. The world is watching.
No question about it.
So thinking about everything we've covered this week, what's the big question left hanging for you, our listener? It feels like it comes down to this. Can Brazil successfully assert its democratic principles, its environmental goals on the world stage? Can it resist those authoritarian echoes and protect the Amazon while also fostering the kind of market stability and economic growth needed to actually improve people's lives?
It's a massive question, and as this week shows, it's a complex, ongoing balancing act. There are no easy answers, but Brazil is right in the middle of grappling with it, the interplay between politics, economics, social issues. It's all happening right now.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.